8 heads rule. If you've ever tried drawing before, you've probably run into the problem. You're drawing a person, and you're making the body, and by the time you finish, you look at it and you're like, that is not what the human body looks like. And you're like, how do people know where things go? How do people know where to start and how the body even looks like? How do you know how long the arms are, or the legs, or anything at all? Well, today we're going to be learning the 8 heads rule. This was what basically taught me everything I needed to get started with drawing people. Over here we have a handsome young lad, and what I want to show you is basically proportion. And if you want to get started with drawing people, you need to understand the proportions of the human body, because if you don't know where stuff goes, you'll never progress beyond guessing. So, what it means by saying 8 heads is just very literally that the human body can be measured by the length of the head. So like right here, that distance, I have it represented over here. If you measure that distance like a ruler all the way down 8 times, that's basically the proportion of kind of the ideal proportion for the human body. A lot of people are actually 7 heads tall in real life, but the ideal is to be 8 heads tall. So basically you can use this measurement of heads as how you will find the placeholder or the mark for where different parts of the body are. So for example, obviously 1 head down is going to be about where the chin is. You go down another head, that's about where the nipples are. Go down another head, then it's less prominent a point, but it's like kind of above the belly button. The belly button's right there. Go down another head, and you've reached the crotch. 4 heads down should be about the middle of the body. And that can help you with planning out how long the body should be. If you go down some more, 2 more heads should be about where the knees are, but this varies a lot from person to person. It's usually like a little bit under here, but again, people are all different. Go down 2 more heads, and you're at the feet, or at least where the heels are. So basically, this is kind of the rule that artists start out with when they're learning proportion and such. Over time, I just kind of memorized it, so I don't really need to measure when I'm drawing anymore. Like this, for example, I didn't even need to measure it because I just kind of memorized what it feels like. So let's look at an example of what it would be like drawing, kind of sketching out a character using this rule. So let's say that you're wanting to draw a person, and we're just going to draw them standing up straight just for the sake of learning. So the first thing I would do is establish the length of the head, since that's what we're going to use to measure most of it. So, okay. My hand keeps bumping it. Okay, there. So let's say we're going to draw an oval. That's going to represent the head. So, if we use this head length, we can eyeball it, or you can use a ruler if you just feel meticulous. I kind of recommend using a ruler the first time, because you might not be able to eyeball it. So I'm going to eyeball it though. So I'm going to draw out like a little pseudo ruler on here. Alright, so there's kind of like 8, I guess. So the next thing I would do is kind of like establish, okay, here's where these things are. So right here is approximately where the nipples will go. Right here is about where the crotch will be, and the knees will be somewhere around there, and the heels will be like about right there. So the next thing that I would do is use kind of like a skeletal construction for the body, because this will help you lay it out so that you'll have something to build off of later. So for me, see, I just draw a straight line all the way down. That's where the center of the body is going to be. Then I draw maybe a line across for the shoulders, And arms will follow this kind of a curve. Now the elbows, remember as I mentioned earlier, tend to be around this third mark. You know, everybody's a little different, but they tend to be about right there. Now I'm going to draw these lines, and this is going to represent like the torso. And I'm just going to say this is a male, so it has a very V-shaped torso, wider shoulders than the hips. And for the hips, I'll draw another box. It's going to be right here. If the crotch is approximately there, then the legs will start a little lower than that, you know, right under the junk. The legs, I'm going to blob out like sausages, because that's usually how I do it. And then the toes will go a little farther, because that line is just where the heels are, usually. At this angle, the toes would be a little bit lower than that. So we got this blobby dude. The fingers tend to go like kind of right mid-thigh, so they'll be like in this area. So then I would start getting a little more detailed. So let's make this head look more like a head. Add ears. Add a neck. And now at this part, you may not know exactly how the muscles are shaped and the curves and all that, and I highly suggest that you do not just start drawing noodle arms and guessing at what it looks like, because that's not growth. What you need is a reference, and don't feel any guilt in using a reference, because it's not cheating. I used to think it was cheating. It's not cheating. This is how you learn, because how else are you going to know what the body looks like, the thing that you're trying to draw, if you don't know what it looks like? So don't feel any shame. So anyways, there's our reference, and that'll help us to understand, you know, how the arm curves and that kind of basic stuff that you just don't know when you first start. So for me, I would start and the shoulders curve out a little bit like that. This will represent the collarbone. This helps me get stuff spaced out. Now, the nipples, the distance between nipples can help you determine the width of the shoulders and everything. The distance between the nipples is actually approximately this head length. So if you take that and you can use a ruler, or you can just guess. You can say, well, it looks like they're going to be about that far apart, and most times they will. So you go to this nipple line we have here and draw them about right there, and that should be about it. So anyways, we'll draw this down. Elbows go about right there. And that's about how the arms are shaped, kind of. It's very simplified. Then, like that. And I'm just gonna blob in some shapes to represent the hands. Ew, I think I made these arms a little long. Hold up. Okay, there. So, another thing to learn is you will constantly be adjusting your proportions as you do them, even when you get familiar with them. So, anyways, then I would continue to just, I'm not going to get super meticulous with these curves, but do the rest of the leg. And that's basically what I would end up with. So, and that's a great place to start, because you know, when you start to get better, you can decide on different stylizations that you'd like to do. Like if you'd like to make the legs longer because you think that looks better, whatever. You can do whatever you want. But you have to learn the rules before you can break them. Otherwise, you're just going to be making a mess. And so that is pretty much it. If you want to start practicing and learning this, just get you a ruler and draw your head. Establish what that head length is and use that as a unit to help you measure out the rest of the body. And make sure you use references. Always use references. Please use the reference. Okay, see you.